Hi guys, welcome to this video looking at how you can balance complete combustion reactions. So, we've got a question here that says when methane, CH4, reacts with oxygen, O2, it completely combusts to form water and carbon dioxide. Write the balanced equation. So it gives you methane and oxygen, so we can put those in straight away. It tells you water, you need to remember that's H2O, and then it gives you carbon dioxide, which you need to remember is CO2. Hopefully you will do that. So your first 2 marks in this 3 marker is to put the reactants and the products. So you got 2 out of 3 without having to do anything else. Your next job is to count up either side, and as you can see I have 1 carbon, I have 4 hydrogens, and I have 2 oxygens. You need to do that with the other side as well. So I've got 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, but I've also got another 2 in my carbon dioxide, so 1 plus 2 equals 3, and then I've got 1 carbon. Now, as I've said previously, your best bet is to take the odd number, which in this case is my 1, in my big compound. So water is the big compound here with the odd number in, so take it and double it, and then recount what you've got on either side. So this now gives me 2 oxygens in my water compound with my 2 from my carbon dioxide, so 4 overall. But I haven't just doubled the oxygen, I've doubled the hydrogen as well. So I've got 2 beforehand, I've doubled that, so 2 times 2 gives me 4 hydrogens. So now my carbon and my hydrogen are balanced, but my oxygen isn't. So what do I need to times my 2 on the left hand side by to get 4? And the answer is 2. So put a big 2 in front of my O2, and that gives me 4 in total, which is now balanced. Now that was a fairly straightforward one. However, it can get a bit more complicated. So it can actually just say, write the balanced equation for the complete combustion of propane. So you need to remember that in complete combustion, oxygen is used, which is O2, and you will always produce carbon dioxide and water. So for this one, it gives you propane is C3H6. It's complete combustion, so it's C3H6 plus O2, arrow, which means it forms CO2 plus H2O. Your next step is the same as before. We need to count up how many we've got on the left and how many we've got on the right. So on the left hand side, we have 3 carbons, we have 6 hydrogens, and we have 2 oxygens. On the right we have 1 carbon, we have 2 plus 1 is 3 oxygen, and then we have 2 hydrogen. So in this case I could either double the C3H6 or I could go for the CO2. In this case I'm going to try going for the CO2 and tripling it, because I've got 3 on the left and only got 1 on the right. So that gives me 3 carbons, which is balanced, but also multiplies my number of oxygens by 3. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus my 1 in my water gives me 7 overall. Hydrogen, I've got 6 on the left, I need 6 on the right, but I've only got 2, so I can times that by 3 as well. So 2 times 3 gives me 6, which is fine. I've also doubled my oxygen by 3 as well, so that gives me 6 from my CO2, 3 from my H2O, which gives me 9. So the question is, what do I times by 2 to get 9? Now as you can see, I've actually made a bit of a mistake, haven't I? I should have doubled my big odd compound, which is what I keep telling you. And that's fine. If you make that mistake, just go back and start again. So I've got a large odd compound, let's double that to begin with. So that gives me 6, and then 12 hydrogens. Now on my right hand side, I need 6, I've got 1, so 1 times by what gives me 6 is 6. I then do the same with the oxygen, I've times that by 6, I had 2 there, so that gives me 12, plus my 1 from my water gives me 13 in total. I also have 12 hydrogens on the left, and I need to get that on the right. I have 2, so 2 times what gives me 12? The answer is 6. So I have 6 of my H2O, and therefore I've multiplied the oxygens by 6 as well. So I've got, instead of my 1 in here, I've got 6 in total. So 12 plus 6 gives me 18 in total on the right hand side. So my carbon and hydrogen are balanced, but what can I times my 2 oxygen by on the left to get 18? And the answer is 9. If you're not sure on that, 18 divided by 2 gives you 9, and therefore that makes it completely balanced. So it's 2CH3 plus 9O2 goes to 6CO2 plus 6H2O. Okay, time for one more example then. It's a very similar practice. This time it says we've got glucose burning lots of oxygen, it completely combusts. It has the formula C6H12O6, write the balanced equation. So C6H12O6 we're given, tells you it's lots of oxygens, that's O2. Complete combustion, you need to remember, produces H2O and CO2, and that gets you 2 of your 3 marks. Your third mark is for having it balanced, so let's work out what we've got on either side, which is 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and then I've got 6 oxygens in my glucose plus 2 from my oxygen, so I've got 8 in total. On the right hand side I've got 2 hydrogens, I've got 1 carbon, and then I've got 2 plus 1, or 1 plus 2 oxygens, which gives me 3 in total. Now in this case my glucose, although it's a really large compound, there is nothing in there that's odd. I've got even numbers throughout, so I don't need to do anything with that, I don't need to double it at all. So it doesn't matter what I start off with. Here I've gone with the carbon, I have 1 on the right hand side, I need 6, so I'll multiply it by 6, so I can put a 6 up there. I've now got 12 hydrogens on the left and I've got 2 on the right, so what do I times 2 by to get 12? And the answer is 6, so I can put a 6 in there and 6 up at the top, and therefore my carbon and hydrogen are balanced. Now I need to recount my oxygen, so I had 1 in my H2O, I've now got 6, I had 2 in my CO2, times that by 6, which gives me 12. So in total 6 plus 12 is 18. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because on the right hand side I've got 8, so you'd think what do I need to times 8 by to get 18, and it doesn't work. However, 6 of those are from the glucose, which we don't need to touch, therefore it's only 12 that I need to get. I've got 2, I need to get 12, what do I times 2 by? 6, so if I put a 6 up there and then double check, that gives me my 6 from my glucose, plus 6 times 2 is 12, so 6 plus 12 gives me 18, and I'm now balanced. And that's the end of this part of the video. Right, let's move on to the apply question then, so you guys can have a go. We've got 2 questions I'd like you to try, both worth 3 marks. So the first one is write the balanced equation for the complete combustion of ethene, C2H4, in lots of oxygen, O2. So remember, 2 marks come from just writing the reactants and the products, which you should now know. Then have a go at the balancing for the 3rd mark. Question 2 is write the balanced equation for the complete combustion reaction between ethane, C2H6, and oxygen, O2. So try both of them, one is a lot harder than the other, and we'll see how you've done in a minute. Pause the video now. Okay, let's go through then and see if you are right. So, the question says, write the balanced equation for the complete combustion of ethene. So it tells you ethene is C2H4 in lots of oxygen, and it gives you, in this case, oxygen is O2. So that makes your reactants, and that's your first mark. The second one is to remember, if it says complete combustion, you get carbon dioxide and you get water. So 1 mark for your reactants, 1 mark for your products. The next job is to count up how much we've got on either side. So, little 2 down here tells me I've got 2 carbons, little 4 down here means 4 hydrogens, and little 2 down here means 2 oxygens. On the right hand side I've got 1 carbon, 2 plus 1 oxygen, so that's 3 oxygens, and then 2 hydrogens. So 1 carbon, 2 hydrogens, 3 oxygens. Okay, so now I need to choose one that I need to balance. So if we look at the one with an odd number in, that is either carbon here or the oxygen over here. Note I don't need to double this, because although it's a large compound it's already even, so I don't need to do anything to it. So I could choose either this and make my carbon even, or this and make my oxygen even. So I'm going to choose the water, but it doesn't matter which you do first. So I've got 1, if I double it, that doubles my oxygen, so I've got 2 still from here, 2 times 1 gives me 4 in total. I've also doubled my hydrogen, so I had 2, I've doubled it, so I've got 4. So now my hydrogens are balanced. Next I need to either balance the carbon or the oxygen. Well, this is the odd number, so let's go to this one first. So I've got 1, I need 2, let's double it. So 2 times by my 1 gives me 2, but I've also doubled my oxygen, so 2 times 2 gives me 4. Add that to my 2 from over here, and I've got 6 in total. My carbon and hydrogen are now balanced, but my oxygen isn't. I've got 2 on the left hand side, I need to get 6 to have it balanced, so what do I times 2 by? And the answer is 3. So that gives me 2 carbons on both sides, 4 hydrogens on both sides, and 6 oxygens, which is my 3rd mark. Okay, let's have a look at question 2 then. So this one says, write the balanced equation for the complete combustion reaction between ethane, C2H6, and oxygen, O2. Now we know that complete combustion gives you carbon dioxide and water. That gives us our first 2 marks out of 3. One for the reactants, one for the products. So the next job is to count up what we've got on both sides. So I've got 2 carbons on the left, I've got 6 hydrogens, and I've got 2 oxygens. On the right I have 1 carbon, I have 2 hydrogens, and then 2 plus 1 is 3 oxygens. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to choose one to balance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what happens if you get it wrong and how to actually redo it, how to make it correct. So I'm actually in this case going to go with the hydrogen and the oxygen in water. I've got 2 hydrogens on the right and 6 on the left, so to do that I'm going to times it by 3. So that gives me 6 hydrogens, which is balanced. Oxygens, I've got 2 from my carbon dioxide, and now I've got 3 times 1 is 3, so I've got 5 oxygens in total. I'm then going to choose another one, so I'll go with my carbon dioxide here. I've got 1 on the right of carbon and 2 on the left, so let's double it. That gives me 2 carbons, so that's balanced, hydrogen's balanced, and then I've got 2 times 2 is 4 oxygens, plus my 3 gives me 7. Problem here, if you do that, is what do you need to times 2 by to get 7? And the answer is 3.5. However, you can't put that in the exam, they don't like you putting halves. So if you're in this situation where you know you need to get 7 and you've got 2 and you figure out that it's 3.5, my suggestion to you is double everything. So if you double this, that gives you 2 times 2 is 4 carbons, 6 times 2 is 12 hydrogens, and then 3.5 times 2, which is 7, doubled again, is 14 oxygens. On this side I had 2, so it's now 4 carbons, 4 times 2 is 8 oxygens, plus 3 times 2 is 6, 8 plus 6 is 14, and then 6 times by 2 gives you 12. So as you can see here, doubling everything gets rid of that decimal place, that half of an oxygen, 4 carbons on either side, 12 hydrogens on either side, and 14 oxygens on either side. So if you get a half, it comes out to that, double everything. Okay, that pretty much sums up this video then. So there's a couple of review questions which I'd like you to have a go at, which are, write the balanced equation for the complete combustion of propane, C3H8, and lots of oxygen, and then write the balanced equation for the complete combustion of butane, C4H10, and oxygen. And that does complete this video. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, click on the subscribe button down below, visit the website, and you can find me on Facebook and Twitter.